In a forsaken quarter of the metropolis, where antiquated gas lamps barely held their own against an encroaching darkness, stood an anachronistic monument to a bygone era, the train station. Isolated from the bustle of contemporary life, it had become a neglected sanctuary, a vestige of the epoch when iron rails were the sinews that connected society. Cobblestones bore the mark of ceaseless rain, and the iron tracks were tarnished with years of oxidation. Buildings that once stood proudly had succumbed to creeping vines and weather-induced dilapidation. Rain slanted down in torrential rivulets, each drop a metronome ticking toward an ominous future. Thunder rolled across the sky, as though celestial entities were announcing a cosmic verdict. Emerging from the murky shadows of a narrow, winding street was John, his visage that of a man who had waded through 4 decades of life and found himself mired in existential quicksand. His coat, no longer impervious to the elements, sagged with the weight of rainwater. Each step toward the station felt like an act of both desperation and defiance. His eyes, once the windows to youthful aspirations, had dulled to a lusterless gray. An endless cycle of monotony has brought me here. Perhaps boarding a train with no discernible destination is the precise jolt my life needs. To John's considerable surprise, he wasn't alone in this derelict haven. A station master, whose visage bore the creases of countless seasons, occupied the ticket booth. There was an air of expectation in his time-worn eyes, as if he had been awaiting John's arrival with a foreknowledge that defied logical explanation. "Evening," the station master greeted, his eyes twinkling with an enigmatic glint. "The night is inclement, but perhaps you seek passage nonetheless?" "A ticket, please," John mustered, dispelling his initial reservations. "Where exactly does this train lead?" A subdued chuckle escaped the station master's lips. "Ah, the quandary that lures so many aboard. This train, you see, transcends conventional routes. It takes you not where you desire to go, but where you most need to be." An utter absurdity, John considered, even as the compelling, almost hypnotic gaze of the station master began to erode his skepticism. "But my life is already an exercise in absurdity. What more could I lose?" Intrigued enough to embark, the station master probed, already reaching for an elaborately crafted ticket. The paper was unlike any John had seen. Its filigree patterns morphed subtly, almost as though imbued with a life force of their own. "Very well," John replied, resigning himself to this strange escapade and exchanging currency for the ornate ticket. Clutching the enigmatic pass, John made his way up to the platform where anachronism met reality in the form of a locomotive. The train was a paradox, clad in a patina of age, yet possessing an indelible elegance that could not be tarnished by time. It stood regally, yet hauntingly deserted, save for a handful of distant figures. These shadowy passengers remained aloof, ensconced in their own isolated worlds. Upon settling into a seat upholstered in once luxurious velvet, now worn by decades of use, John felt a palpable shift in the air. The ambiance within the carriage was suffused with an aura that defied the natural order, as if the train were not merely a vehicle, but an entity that transcended time and space. Is this the figment of an overactive imagination? Or have I truly ventured into a domain that defies understanding? As the arms of the ancient station clock met at the zenith, the locomotive roared to life. Pistons churned with resonant clangs, steam billowed from the underbelly of the mechanical beast, and the world outside the rain-streaked windows metamorphosed into an ambiguous tableau of fleeting hues. The rigidity of reality seemed to waver, blurring into the abstract. Overcome by a sense of profound disorientation, John could no longer resist the siren call of sleep. He drifted into the netherworld of dreams, oblivious to the metamorphosis that was about to unfold. The train, now emancipated from the earthly plane, ventured into the liminal spaces between dimensions, initiating a journey that defied both logic and imagination. Awakening was a surreal experience, as if John were surfacing from the depths of a fathomless ocean of dreams. His senses felt heightened, yet oddly skewed. The contours of the train's interior had subtly shifted during his repose, now tinged with hues that seemed plucked from a spectrum beyond human perception. The carriage itself exuded an ethereal glow, casting ephemeral shadows that danced on the vintage upholstery. Around him, the other passengers had begun to materialize from their previously indistinct forms. Their visages were a motley collection of antiquated and contemporary styles, as if they hailed from disparate timelines. Conversations reverberated through the train, but the language was elusive, intelligible one moment, incomprehensible the next, as though reality itself were oscillating. John wondered if these passengers were like him, souls caught in existential quagmires, seeking escape or enlightenment. Or perhaps they're denizens of this alternate realm, part of a cosmic tapestry I can't begin to comprehend. His curiosity was interrupted by the sudden appearance of a stewardess pushing a cart laden with an assortment of vials, parchments, and arcane artifacts. Her uniform was a blend of nostalgia and futurism, anachronistic yet harmonious. She offered him a choice of beverages, each contained in elaborately designed glassware. The liquids within shifted in color, effervescing in peculiar rhythms. "Would you like refreshment, sir? We have elixir of recollection, infusion of lucidity, or tonic of transmutation," she inquired, her voice imbued with a melodic quality that transcended vocalization, resonating instead with some deeper aspect of John's consciousness. Feeling adventurous, or perhaps reckless, John opted for the tonic of transmutation. The stewardess poured the iridescent liquid into a goblet adorned with engravings that seemed to narrate an ancient cosmogony. As he took a sip, his senses were flooded with an amalgamation of flavors that defied categorization. A warmth radiated from his core, suffusing his entire being with an inexplicable sense of transformation. Am I becoming an integral part of this dimensional tapestry? Or is it weaving itself into the very fibers of my existence? Just as he was contemplating these thoughts, the train gave a sudden lurch, causing the entire carriage to tremble as though crossing a dimensional fault line. An intercom crackled to life, its message half drowned in static but tinged with an undertone of urgency. "Attention passengers," boomed a voice, layered with resonances that seemed to bypass auditory perception and directly stimulate synaptic responses. "We are approaching the Nexus. Please prepare for the synchronic divergence." Nexus. Synchronic divergence? The phrases seemed plucked from a lexicon of metaphysical technobabble, yet they resonated with John's burgeoning awareness of the train's otherworldly nature. As the passengers around him began to chant incantations or manipulate peculiar devices, he sensed a confluence of energies coalescing within the carriage. The exterior landscape, visible through the windows, had dissolved into a vortex of iridescent colors, spiraling into an abyss that seemed to yawn wider with each passing moment. John gripped his seat, bracing himself for an encounter with the unimaginable. As the train plunged into the swirling chasm, the fabric of reality frayed and snapped, propelling John and his fellow passengers into a realm governed by laws arcane and paradoxical. What awaited them was a dimension uncharted by terrestrial minds, a world unfettered by the boundaries of human comprehension. And thus, John found himself unmoored from the plane of his banal existence, sailing into a cosmic ocean fraught with both peril and promise. As the disorienting whirlpool of light and color gave way to newfound stability, John found himself staring out at a landscape almost poetic in its alien majesty. The horizon was marked by vast fields of crystalline flora, illuminated by a celestial body that defied earthly descriptions, neither sun nor moon, but something that emitted a softer luminescence, painting the world in shades of twilight. The train had come to rest in a station, if it could be called that, constructed from materials that shimmered with an otherworldly gleam. The architectural design suggested an advanced civilization, a blend of geometry and artistry that struck a harmonious balance between form and function. Have I transcended the limits of reality to find myself in some cosmic haven? Or is this yet another elaborate mirage, a reflection of my innermost desires and fears? Upon disembarking, John felt a curious lightness in his step, as if the laws of physics had been recalibrated in this dimension. The air was imbued with a fragrance both exotic and invigorating, and he sensed a vitality coursing through his veins, rejuvenating his weary spirit. His reverie was broken by a procession of beings advancing toward the train. They were humanoid, but distinctly different, with elongated features and iridescent eyes that regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and compassion. One among them, garbed in opalescent robes that flowed like liquid light, stepped forward as the group's apparent emissary. "Welcome, traveler, to Eidolon," the being intoned, its voice echoing as if carried by the wind itself. "I am Seraphis, the harbinger of this sanctuary. You stand at the confluence of realities, a crossroads of potentialities." Though John's mind raced with questions, a newfound equanimity curtailed his impulsivity. Instead, he breathed deeply, feeling an inexplicable connection to Seraphis and the realm he now found himself in. "Sanctuary for whom? And why have I been brought here?" John inquired, navigating the fine line between awe and inquiry. Seraphis gestured grandly toward the sweeping vistas beyond the platform. "Eidolon is a haven for souls adrift, a crucible for metamorphosis. Each being here, be they from realms known or unfathomable, has undertaken a voyage towards self-discovery. As for why you are here, that is a question only you can answer, John. Is this the culmination of my existence, a grand cosmic epiphany, or merely a trial, a tribulation designed to challenge the boundaries of my identity?" Seraphis handed John a pendant imbued with intricate sigils. "This talisman will guide you through your journey in Eidolon. It resonates with the quintessence of your being, a compass that will lead you where you most need to go." Accepting the pendant, John felt an invigorating jolt, as though his existential GPS had been recalibrated. He looked back at the train, now an artifact from another reality, its role as a cosmic vessel superseded by the mysteries that Eidolon held. As he took his first steps into the unknown, following the ethereal pulse of the talisman, John realized that his arrival in Eidolon was not an end, but a beginning. Here, in a realm unbound by the constraints of conventional wisdom, he could confront the specters of his past and, perhaps, find the inspiration to reshape his future. Guided by the talisman's pulse, a subtle vibration synchronized with the rhythm of his heartbeat, John ventured deeper into the crystalline landscape. The air hummed with an almost musical resonance, a sonic texture that seemed to communicate with the essence of his soul. An expanse of luminous water stretched before him, its surface undulating in complex patterns, as if inscribing the very equations of existence. Is this realm a physical place, or a manifestation of collective consciousness? A landscape wrought from the dreams and nightmares of untold dimensions? He was interrupted by a sudden change in the talisman's behavior. It pulsated more rapidly, its vibrations crescendoing in a harmonious chord that reverberated through his being. Ahead, a grand structure materialized, temple-like in its grandiosity. Built from a substance resembling both stone and crystal, existing in a state of perpetual flux. Crossing the threshold, John entered a chamber bathed in iridescent light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Arrayed before him were 7 beings, each distinctive yet sharing the ethereal qualities of Seraphis. They were the oracles of Eidolon, stewards of wisdom, and guardians of the realm's myriad secrets. "Ah, the newcomer," the central oracle intoned, her voice imbued with an ancient, motherly warmth. "We have been expecting you, John. You may pose one question, a query whose answer could illuminate your path or shroud it in further mystery. An opportunity to peel back the veils of uncertainty, to glean knowledge that could reshape my understanding of not just Eidolon, but existence itself." John pondered his options, conscious of the weight his inquiry would bear. After a moment that felt like an eternity compressed into a heartbeat, he spoke. "What is the purpose of my journey through Eidolon?" The oracles exchanged enigmatic glances, as though communing through an inscrutable telepathy. Finally, the central oracle responded. "Purpose is an ever-changing tapestry, woven from the threads of choices and consequences. Your journey serves as both a catalyst and a crucible, transforming not only you but the very essence of Eidolon. The realm thrives on the amalgamation of perspectives, the synergy of souls that traverse its lands." The oracle extended her hand, from which emanated a radiant sphere resembling a miniature eclipse. "This is a fragment of potentiality. Imbue it with your essence, and it will transform into a key, unlocking a domain within Eidolon where your purpose shall become manifest. Is this a gift or a challenge? A privilege or a burden?" John touched the fragment, feeling his very DNA resonate with the cosmic artifact. it morphed into a complex key, its geometry a labyrinth of interlocking vectors and polyhedra. "Seek the eclipse spire, where the celestial cycles of Eidolon converge," said the oracle. "There, you shall find the lock that this key opens, and confront the apotheosis or nadir of your sojourn." Taking leave of the oracles, John felt both exalted and daunted. As he exited the temple, the talisman began pulsating again, now in synchrony with the key. He knew his next destination, the eclipse spire, a structure whispered to exist at the confluence of Eidolon's celestial mechanics, where the potentialities of one's journey would be laid bare. He was a man transformed yet again, moving closer to an understanding so profound it defied verbal articulation. Ahead lay the penultimate chapter of his cosmic Odyssey, one that promised enlightenment or enigma. With each step toward the eclipse spire, John felt the fabric of Eidolon tremble, as if acknowledging the gravity of his impending arrival. The spire loomed like an astronomical wonder, its architecture a harmony of sacred geometry and cosmic artistry. As he approached, the key resonated, its form oscillating in tune with the vibrations of the talisman and the pulse of the realm itself. Is this the climax of my Odyssey? A grand denouement that will either shatter or validate my understanding of existence? He inserted the key into an intricate lock that appeared to form organically from the spire's surface. As he turned it, the world around him quaked, the boundaries between physical and metaphysical blurring in a kaleidoscope of existential revision. The spire opened, revealing an interior that defied comprehension, simultaneously an observatory, a cathedral, and a vortex into the unfathomable. Positioned at the center was an altar upon which lay a mirror, but not an ordinary one. It was a gateway to myriad realities, an aperture through which John glimpsed versions of himself across parallel dimensions. Lives unchosen, paths untaken. Each reflection shimmered with the allure and anguish of what could have been. Is this my purpose, then? To bear witness to the multiplicity of my own existence? To grasp the elusive tapestry of choice and fate? At that moment, the celestial body that had illuminated Eidolon since his arrival began its approach toward what appeared to be a moon, or perhaps another celestial being. The eclipse was beginning. "Behold the convergence," a voice echoed through the chamber, a confluence of Seraphis and the oracles, their tones harmonized into a spectral choir. Every cycle, the eclipse offers a choice: to remain in Eidolon as a steward of its mysteries, or to return to your original realm, forever changed, but gifted with newfound wisdom. John pondered the magnitude of his decision, grappling with the allure of the unknown against the call of the familiar. What meaning will I extract from this ephemeral existence? What purpose will guide me henceforth? As the celestial bodies aligned in a mesmerizing spectacle of astral majesty, John felt his decision crystallize. He chose to return, to carry the wisdom gleaned from his journey back to his earthly existence. It wasn't escape he sought anymore, but transformation, a metamorphosis born from his voyage through the enigmatic tapestry of Eidolon. As he made his choice, the mirror transformed into a portal, shimmering with the soft light of his home dimension. He stepped through, each footfall a leap across realities, until he found himself back on Earth, or what he once knew as Earth. The realm seemed both alien and familiar, a world laden with opportunities for rebirth and renewal. As he disembarked from the now corporeal train, John glanced back. No longer a spectral locomotive, it had resumed its mundane form. Yet it could not disguise its role as the vessel of his cosmic pilgrimage. John had returned, but he was no longer the man who had boarded that fateful train. He was an amalgam of experiences and revelations, a sentient being forever marked by his sojourn through Eidolon. And as he ventured into the world, talisman and key tucked away as mementos of his extraordinary expedition, he did so with an unquenchable thirst for understanding, perpetually seeking the profound and the prosaic, forever journeying, even if only in spirit, through dimensions seen and unseen,